Coming up, Fanout's review of Exposition, the movie, starring that guy from Game of Thrones and co-starring that guy from Game of Thrones and composed by that guy from Game of Thrones. Stay tuned. What's up, Fanout Crew? Colby, Brian, and Jonathon are back. And today we're just going to have a roundtable discussion on Marvel's Eternals. We all recently watched it and just wanted to get together and have a discussion about it. Jonathon, I know you really loved this movie. Go.
Oh, have I really loved this movie? I tell you what, there are several other things I'd rather do than watch The Eternals. But upon my rewatch, I've lightened up on it a little bit.
Softened up on it a little bit? Well,
yeah, I have.
What changed for you?
Okay, so I know this is going to sound weird. Just follow me here, fellas. As you watch the movie again, knowing what happens at the end, everything just kind of makes sense when you watch it.
Okay.
Because the entire, I know it sounds weird, but when you're watching a 2.5 hour long movie and the entire time you're like, what the hell is happening?
What are they building to? Yeah.
What are they building to? And when you go back and you watch it again, you can actually like take a step back and know where everything's going, and everything just makes more sense. So if you would have asked me what this movie came out a couple months ago, if you would have asked me when I stepped out of the theater what I thought about The Eternals, I was just like, I do not want to watch that movie again. So I'm glad I did. I really am. I'm glad I went back and I did the rewatch, because it's just when they start doing their pseudoscience and all that other crap, you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Because I know what they're doing. I know what they're trying to explain. I know where these relationships between these characters end up at the end of this movie. It just makes more sense on the second watch. Now, if you ask me, hey, Joe, when's the next time you're going to watch The Eternals? There has to be another movie, because that's what I think The Eternals is meant to be. It's supposed to be a tentpole.
It's a prequel to other Eternals projects, basically.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tentpole for like another branch of MCU cosmic storylines that we're going to get. And yes, will it wrap up when we get like the Avengers 4? Will we get Eternals mixing with our Earth heroes again? Yes, but I think Eternals is going to be comparable to the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're going to be out there in the cosmos doing their own damn thing, while Earth is going to keep churning out our Avengers-esque movies and whatnot.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we'll get some more or less Easter eggs for a while of events related to them popping up in other Marvel properties. I did not finish rewatching this. I got about 40 minutes in before we started recording this. But I will say that first 40 minutes, the second go around, did feel different than the first time in. Personally, the first viewing, I actually did really enjoy the movie, but I will say it's slow, and there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of like world building that happens through dialogue, not through action. Personally, I like that type of film, but I recognize that I'm weird and that's not normal. So because when I was in the theater, there was literally like the guy in the row in front of me was head back snoring for over an hour of the movie. And I did actually have to jump up and use the restroom at one point, which I hate doing during a movie, but the guy in the front row that had brought his kid to see the movie, like his kid was maybe 8 or 9 years old. The dad was asleep, snoring, while the kid was like just hyper bouncing around. So like,
I didn't know you and I saw Eternals the same theater. Sorry, man.
Yeah,
you should have just told me.
I don't think it was you.
So, but I kind of had.
But the speed of it was just off for a lot of people, and I recognize that. But I thought it was good. The cast was good. The acting was good.
I think I had kind of the same experience you did, Brian. I actually really enjoyed it right out of the theater. I had a quick reaction on our channel right out of the theater and really enjoyed it. But I knew I needed to unpack it because it's so dense. There is so much there because it's all exposition until it gets to the final, battle thing. And I didn't enjoy it as much the second time, but I still overall enjoy it. Probably like maybe a 6 out of 10, maybe a 5.5 out of 10, but I'm still above 50%. You know, I just have so many problems with the film. Um, I mean, I really like the cast overall, but I thought Dane Whitman was one of the coolest parts of the movie, and he's in it for like 2 minutes, you
Yeah.
know? And I understand what they're doing. I get it. He's a
Mhm.
setup for other films. I get it. You know, I thought Fastos was the standout for me, Brian Tyree Henry. I think he was my favorite part of the movie. I did enjoy Druig too, but what they end up doing with Druig's character ultimately goes nowhere. They set him up in the trailers and in the beginning of the movie to be this villain, or at least like a quasi villain, you know, with his mind control powers, and then he just sort of like, oh, okay, I'll help you guys. Like, sorry, I was an ass, you know, like it's just
Yeah, he's the moody teenager from the Umbrella
yes,
Academy.
yeah.
Is it Lars?
I can't. I've seen that. I've seen season
What's that?
one, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
But anyway, there's the character from Umbrella Academy. He is a less fun that character from
yeah.
the Umbrella Academy.
But you
It's
know,
what Druig is.
I appreciated the depth of his character though,
Oh, yeah.
because there's some moments where like he was the only one that was right. Like if we're here on some great mission, why are we gonna let them all kill themselves?
Yeah, no, I get that. It's
like
just
I can
Yeah.
stop this.
ultimately
like, why
his
not?
character didn't do anything, and that's the problem that I have. Like, they're all supposed to have their sort of little niche, right? Ajax is the healer, Icarus flies, Thena is the battle warrior type person, Fastos has technology. You know, they got a speedster, they got someone who can make illusions. What the hell is Kingo's thing? He has finger guns. That's no
He does
Yeah.
have finger
that's no
guns.
different than what Icarus does. It's just from his
Kamehamehas.
eyes. Like, and he doesn't fly. And then Kingo just dips before the final battle, and then we just see.
I love Kingo.
Dude, he was my favorite part of the movie, and then he leaves. And then I was like, okay,
He's
I guess
so
I got to root
good.
for Fastos now. It was so weird, right?
Yeah.
It was so
Yeah.
weird.
I really liked Gilgamesh.
Yeah, he was cool too. But
Dude, like I didn't. I liked all the Eternals. I almost said I didn't dislike, which is the exact same thing.
Yeah,
as saying,
yeah.
well, I liked all the Eternals. Yeah, the Kingo had all the awesome one-liners when
Yeah.
he's doing. Anyway, I could go on. Like I just saw that scene again today, like an hour ago, about how it's just like. I think Druid calls him out on being an actor, and he's like, "I've directed some stuff
yeah,
too."
internet content. Yeah, yeah,
Internet content. It's not about the
yeah.
views.
I
Anyway,
chuckled at that in the theater. I was like, hey, you too, huh?
That actor just has great screen presence. Like
Yeah.
he steals scenes like in everything he's in.
Yeah, I don't. Even without the Icarus like twist, I didn't really love him to begin with. He kind of insists upon himself a little bit. He's like way too cocky, and it's like, dude, I get it, you can fly, but really, you seriously think you can take on all of them? You know, like, come on, dude. I mean,
I do.
Fastos subdues him with technology alone, and Makari is kicking his ass for a few minutes. Like, I get it. I mean, I don't feel like they are equals. I kind of feel like they're supposed to be, but they're definitely not.
I think he was pulling punches.
Really?
Even though he said he'd kill them all, I do think.
Well,
he was pulling.
that's kind of what I'm saying is like, I can't figure out is he really a bad guy, or does he just make a dumb decision and go down the wrong path? You know, like I couldn't really figure out his character. Where ultimately, are we supposed to hate him or like him or both? Like I don't know what they were doing with Icarus.
No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing out of Captain America's Civil War. You know, you have nobody's wrong in what they
Yeah.
believe. We just want to. We as the audience have to decide whether or not who we agree with, and we are biased because we all live on Earth
Yeah,
and we want
it's
Earth to
just-
survive and all that stuff.
This one, I think you may be right. I think that may be the thing they were leaning toward. Like, hey, this is basically Civil War in space, so to speak. But like, we didn't have those the past moments with those characters to really get to know them. And Sprite just stabs Cersei at the end, and then they're all like, "Oh, it was
It's
cool.
cool.
I can turn you into human." You know, it's like, well, they have been together. They've been together for 7,000 years. So I imagine that there's been lots of times when they've really hated each other, right? And I'm just like, okay, you can't tell a movie backwards, and there's just too much exposition and flashbacks. I mean, flashbacks can be dangerous. I mean, yeah, it worked for a movie like Deadpool, right? That was how you do it. But I don't know. I don't think the story ultimately works for me. I know they try to make Cersei kind of carry the film, but it just doesn't quite work. Plus,
she was the least appealing. Like her and Icarus were the two least appealing. Like Eternals.
and they have the most screen time, and it's like, what is going on here? Why them two? Like,
So-
they should have focused on Druig or all of them.
Yeah, so I want to touch a bit on Icarus, like going against everybody and trying to, still follow their mission, because I felt like it was meant. The whole movie was playing it up as if it was like almost like a cult-like or like religious fanaticism.
Yeah.
Of we have to do what basically our god is telling us
Arisham's
to
mission.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they're like, oh yeah, we're actually robots. Like, but you still have free will to argue it.
Let's
Like,
talk about that.
What's going on there?
Let's talk about that, because that's the other main twist in the movie, is that they're not real, I guess, but they are. So it's like, are they clones? Let's say they're clones. Okay. Their lives mean nothing now because they can just be replaced. So am I supposed to actually feel sad when Gilgamesh dies? Do we know at that point that they're...
I mean, I will say that. I remember...
I don't think we know
it,
yet at that point, right?
No,
yeah,
no.
and see, you feel sad for that one, right?
Yep.
But then they show other versions of them just going through all these different ages, and it's like, oh, they can just be replaced. Like there's other Gilgameshes across the stars, like.
Yeah.
And how does that work with Star Fox / Eros? Is he a real Eternal, or is he one of the clones? Like, it doesn't. Either he's.
We'll find out.
I know, but it's.
That is a question that
there's just.
Well, why are you
mean,
saying clone? Because I thought it called them machines.
Because doesn't it show? I keep saying clones, but didn't it show like Erisham was basically making them? I got the feeling that they were like,
they are duplicates.
I got the feeling they were
yes.
like engineered like in a lab, and they were like clones. But that maybe whatever.
No, they're robots.
Yeah,
they are
machines.
robots. They are machines. They're not clones.
Okay, I didn't.
Yeah, they are. I guess sentient.
That's okay. Well, then,
they're sentient.
So
robot.
are they? That brings up a whole other logistical thing. Like,
right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Are they like Terminators,
because,
where they're machines under flesh? Like, what is this? Is this like Westworld?
Yeah, well, that's where I don't understand it, because the whole movie is set up to be like, we have this holy mission, and like their struggle with whether they should follow the mission or not follow the mission and interfere. But then you find out that they're robots or machines, and then the question is like, were they then made to question what they're doing? Do they have free will?
Right. Is this all part of the plan? Plus,
like
Ajax literally says we were instructed not to interfere unless the deviants were involved, specifically addressing why. No, Cersei says that because Dane asked her, why didn't you help against Thanos? Thanos literally took out half of the population of the universe, and they make it known in this movie. They straight up say it that the point of the Eternals is to have as many lives as possible so they can harvest these worlds and then create more Celestials. So wouldn't the fact that Thanos wanted to destroy half the population literally be the one prime directive they would want to fight against? Because like
they didn't know.
It doesn't make my point is the reason they didn't fight against Thanos is because they weren't a thing then. They weren't around then. Like had they been around, they absolutely would have fought him, because he's literally going against what they're made for. They're made to populate worlds.
If you go back and you rewatch Infinity War, we can't really talk about Endgame, but if you rewatch Infinity War, that whole movie takes place in like 2 days.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 48 hours from start to finish.
It was known that Thanos was looking for the Infinity Stones. It's not like that was a new thing.
Well, I mean, like I said, hey Cameron, I don't know if there was a I don't think that's the other thing. You could say it was a known thing, but at the same time, I mean, you could go back and look at Novacore. Now we're going down the rabbit hole. Novacore didn't know that there was a power stone out there until it was there. You know what I'm saying? No one.
I think that's a cop-out excuse, and I get that's the only in-canon quasi reason they could have, because damn well they would have helped if they were actually a thing at that time. there's just so many logistics with this movie that they didn't really think through. It's like this movie takes place in the MCU, but it doesn't feel like it does. And the decisions they make are crazy given the rest of the MCU. Like, is Tiamat just in Earth now? Are his fingers just there now? Like, and I mean, they're just there. It's part of Earth now. I mean, like, it's what?
Is our core no longer a core because it's got a big ass marble ball there now? Like, there's a whole bunch of logistics right there. That
I mean, look, I realize this is a comic book
addressed.
movie and we're going way down the rabbit hole, but these are the kind of things you got to think of. Like, Endgame did it right. They were like, okay, what would happen if we snapped away half the population of the universe? Oh, look, there's whales in the Hudson now. That's like a direct cause and effect thing, right? With this, what happened to the tons of islands that got wiped out when Tiamat came out of the water, you know?
I think that from a creative standpoint, the directors and producers and writers for this, I don't think they thought about the fact that this has to tie into this larger universe. I think that they just weren't paying attention to those details, in my opinion.
And it's weird because that hasn't been a problem until now. Like, even Ant-Man, while it is, I mean, it's part of the MCU, and you don't have Captain America and Iron Man and all that stuff, but he at least ties in. Like, all that stuff that happens in those movies ties in. This feels like a totally different
It feels
thing.
like the Inhumans TV show.
Because you can make an argument. It's just like, well, why didn't, hell, give me a non, I would say non-superhero base, but Hawkeye and Black Widow both somehow help. It was in Endgame and Infinity War. You could ask, like, why wasn't Luke Cage there? Well,
no, I get it.
Because
I get it. It's this to me feels like the Netflix Marvel series where they're sort of MCU adjacent. Like, in the Eternals, they talk about Thor and they talk about Thanos and stuff, but it feels like it's kind of to the side. Kind of like in Jessica Jones, she's like the big green guy or whatever, you know? It feels like that, but this is direct MCU. So I don't know if they really thought about the implications. Plus, Arishem just shows up out of the blue and people are like, oh crap, not this shit again, you know? And where does he go and what's going to happen with that? Like, I'm intrigued to see all that stuff.
I'm not getting off this hill. I don't think the Eternals knew that he was about to snap half of existence or half of life away.
And that's fine. And that is fair because it did happen pretty quick. It's just
they should have awareness of the stones though, because the Celestials are the original users of the stones.
And the Celestials came before the stones. The Celestials around when the singularities were created. But yeah, they're aware of the stones, but again, man, you're talking about, like, there's a reason they call in the comic book world, they call Thanos the Mad Titan. Because think about it, half the universe with a snap of a finger. Nobody conceives that. So even I can't imagine a Celestial sitting around and he's just like, I wonder if I got all sixes, what would I do? That's the Celestial being. And then you could talk about what some dude who knows and has lived through trauma on his home planet and he sees what overpopulation can do, what he's doing in his brain. Anyway, so here we are. We're just going to keep fumbling around with the whole. There's a reason they didn't help.
Yeah,
stop Thanos,
again, that, like,
because he wasn't a Celestial or a Deviant. Sorry.
I don't want you to think that like broke the movie for me or anything. It's just
they needed a better explanation.
Yeah, because if honestly, I would have bought it if they'd said, "Look, Thanos, it all happened in 48 hours. Like, we weren't prepared." That would have been fine.
Because you could say that,
like,
thinking through the chain of events, the Chitauri attack in the Avengers, like, that should have been in the news and then being aware, like, hey, Earth was almost just invaded. Arishem, what's going on? And like, oh shit, that was actually Thanos. Like, that should have started a whole.
I was hoping they were
going to
tie in that way, and Arishem was going to tell them, "Don't interfere." Like, I would have been cool with that. But again, they at the end of the movie, they basically tell you that the whole point of the Eternals is to populate these worlds and don't interfere with the humans because we need as many hosts as we can to make the planet evolve and then let the Celestials grow. So wiping out half life would be a big problem. Right?
Yeah, did half the Celestials in the universe die?
Yeah, dude, that would suck. Because then those planets the people that survived died because the
that's
planet blew up.
Yeah.
That is a philosophical
Yeah,
question, and how dare you
That's what
bring
I'm
that up here,
saying, dude.
Brian?
There's so many logistics that they haven't thought of yet, or I mean, again, this is also a comic book movie, and they could just be like, a wizard did it, just like like No
it's
Way Home
true.
did,
Yeah.
It's
You're
like,
in a
yeah, what do you
wizard's
think about
dungeon.
that, Kevin Feige? And Kevin Feige's gonna be like,
yeah,
because.
yeah. I mean, and he's earned that right, dude.
Yeah. It's like, don't toy with me, boy.
Again, overall, I did enjoy this movie. It's just watching it and then really thinking about the implications of the future. It's like there's so much here that is really just freaking mind-boggling. Like some of these choices they made. I don't know. I'm intrigued to see where they go with Dane Whitman. And
He was the biggest tie-in with the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
I felt like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
end credit scene.
And Kingo was always making
both
jokes
end
about like
credit
Thor and
scenes
stuff as a
was-
kid. That was kind of cool. But like that's the kind of stuff that it takes 30 seconds and then it's over.
Mhm.
So again, I don't want every movie to be connected to every movie. I know a lot of people are like, I just want to watch a movie by itself and not have to do all of the research
Yeah.
and keep watching all these movies. I get that. But at the same time, it's like they've given us that. They've kind of promised that's what we're going to get most of the time. So I don't know. This one just felt like totally disconnected. It was like it was a different studio doing it.
Well, also too, I'm realizing like outside of the Eternals during the time frame of this movie, what heroes are still around on, like established heroes are still around on Earth that are the type where they can just fly across the world or do anything about this? Like even if they detected a hand coming up out of the ocean, like Iron Man's not around. Like
Yeah.
Doctor Strange
Thor isn't
maybe would know
around.
something about it. Like Doctor Strange is the
Yeah.
only person around that I could see actively
Yeah.
be like, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, Captain Marvel's still around. We don't know,
She's in space.
yeah, but I mean,
though.
she's
sure.
she's proven she can get to places quickly,
Yeah, but Samuel L.
And
Jackson's not there to call her back.
Yeah. I get it. I mean,
yeah.
the Eternals needed to be there at the end. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
it felt like the whole movie, like the choices they made, now we have to kind of figure out how we're going to move on from here. It's kind of like Last Jedi. Like, oh, those were some choices that were made. Where do we go from here? That's the only thing I'm worried about a little bit. But again, they've proven they can do it.
It would have been something if they would have thrown, I think, it was the Eternals, and then the next MCU movie was Spider-Man, No Way Home. Am I correct in saying
you
that?
are.
We don't get any kind, like you said, like how I think going forward in the next, probably at least the next run of superhero movies, we get Doctor Strange, Thor, Love and Thunder. We are going to get callbacks to Infinity War and Endgame. People are going to keep talking about the snap and the blip. So here we were. We get Spider-Man: No Way Home, and it could have been any kind of reference. Like maybe if somebody goes through and watches it frame by frame, and get that reference that there is a celestial head coming out of the earth right now, and it's a famous landmark. That would, to me, that would be a big deal. Geologists even would be like,
Yeah.
there's a new fucking continent out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it be on the background
Made
in
out of
Hawkeye
marble.
on a TV screen somewhere or something.
Anything with just like
the
hey,
timeline post Infinity War is very muddled because they do kind of keep jumping around. Black Widow aside, they move around a lot. I mean, even within the 2023, 2024 timeframe, right? Because I don't remember if Hawkeye and No Way Home take place at the exact same time, or just the end of No Way Home takes place. There's so much
Yeah.
jumping around. It's
Well,
really
they talk about
it's
the
really
new
hard to
Statue
keep
of
up.
Liberty.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep up because they don't
Yep.
they don't explicitly say this is what year it is, except in the Eternals when they're doing
And
the
you
flashbacks
see-
and stuff. But I'm saying the rest of the
and you see
MCU.
Rogers on Broadway
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
the hell it is. You see that.
So it's
sign
vaguely the same
in,
time, but it's kind of like the Star Wars canon right now. It's just like all over the place with the timeline rather. Anyway, Eternals again. I did enjoy it overall. I was expecting more. Kevin Feige was using the terms "best picture" when talking about this movie, and what movie did he
Saw
watch?
I mean, if you, I will say this, man. Like, if you were to take, there's plenty of scenes in this. I have it pulled up over here on my left, but there is plenty of scenes in this movie that if you just take a screenshot, they are fucking
Oh, dude,
gorgeous.
the cinematography in this is on point,
They're
dude. Yeah.
they're beautiful. All right, now you're gonna talk about like if you said how much you think the scene cost, I'd be like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because it's cool. Like I even said, it's just like being an MCU or a high budget blockbuster that this is made. You have to forgive CGI, but when the CGI is pretty and you're like, wow, that's really damn cool. It's really easy to forgive. It isn't like rubber faced or anything. It's people morphing into their costumes. It's like the entire environment around people are changing. Like that scene with the Busterns and rose petals is just like, oh, that's
yeah,
pretty.
but at this point, the people that
It's
are
like,
walking
oh,
on the
no.
street don't even notice it because they're like, "Oh, another superhero is turning a bus into a flower petal."
Oh yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
there
So
we are, yeah.
before we end it, let's not do a score, but let's put this movie into the tier, the tier list that we do. So this one is tough for me because it's certainly not S or A, and it's certainly not D. I'm gonna say C.5. I'm gonna say between B and C. That's a thing, right? Because like it's either the very bottom of B tier or the very top of C tier, and I don't know which one it is yet for me.
Brian?
I'm trying to think like what's the Marvel movie this is closest to as far as like my considerations go. Because again, I really do like the story building and the lore and stuff, but the movie has a lot of weak spots too.
This felt like an Age of Ultron to me level, which I think is again C and B.
You say that. I got a good analogy for you. Mine, I remember my least favorite origin story when I watched it, besides Captain Marvel, was Captain America: The First Avenger. And I remember I was just like, I guess. That was coming off the heels of Thor, which I loved, and Iron Man that I loved, and I was just like, oh, okay, Cap. And again, when I say Cap was in the way of getting to the Avengers, I've said that several times on this show. Yeah, I'm just like, come on, let's get to the Avengers. Let's get this Captain America movie out of there. Anyway, so that's how I felt. I still like, so I'm going to rate it as a C around the point, like if we were doing this again, if you would ask me coming out of the theater, what'd you think of that Cap movie? It's like, oh, well, I can take it or leave it. But now I appreciate that first movie even more. So I'm going to put The Eternals comfortably in C, and I'm going to see where it goes. Whatever. Like every time Kevin Feige and the MCU puts out a movie, I'm paying my $10 to $15 to go see it. So I know that if they are going to hit some of these points that were made in this movie, and I hope that they do. I hope that this movie starts on Earth, but it leads us out there. To increase the galactic Marvel sense. I hope that something like that happens. So anyway, C, I reserve the right to change my opinion later.
Well, I think you hit the right to reserve right on the head, because I think that if they do more with these characters, this movie will appreciate in quality, because it'll be something to go back to look at the seeds they've planted for other stuff. If they don't chase any of this stuff down, because I don't think the movie did that well number-wise. Like it made money, but
it's hard to tell though. Is that pandemic issues or other things?
Yeah, we had the asterisk.
Yeah, so many things have changed.
Asterisk next to it.
But with all of that said, I think when I first left the theater, I was like, damn, that was really good. I was like a high B probably, or a low A. But I think it's not a very rewatchable movie, just because it's so dialogue heavy. It's like Lord of the Rings is a rewatchable movie. Like, it's a masterpiece, but it's also a movie that you have to dedicate like your day to watching because it's so damn long. That's sort of how this feels too. Like, it's a movie where I don't know that it would do well in the background. It's something that I'd have to plan to actually sit down and pay attention to. So I'm kind of like settling a low end of a C, I think, which hurts me to say because it's not terrible. I think as a standalone movie,
I would have liked to have seen this movie in Phase 2, like directly after Guardians of the Galaxy. So that way we have two cosmic movies
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, hey, here's our cosmic phase. And then we would have been able to see some of the stuff. Obviously, events would change because, but I'm saying like the Eternals team up could have been cool around that time because we would have seen them in other, you know,
Yeah.
Infinity War type movies, stuff like that.
But I would say, like, if I took this outside of the MCU and just sat it off in its own little bubble by itself, I would probably rate it higher. But it feels like because it had the mission of interlinking with this bigger universe, it completely failed to do that, I think. The biggest thing that pissed me off is, yeah, the Eternals have all these cool powers and everything they're using. I still am pissed that Thanos did not have crazy abilities and be able to do similar stuff. And we're going to end up seeing his brother do stuff in the future, I have a feeling. And I just feel like they watered Thanos down.
Dude, if anything is true about the movie that the stuff I'm hearing about Multiverse of Madness, about how they're going to have like other multiversal versions of the Illuminati and Tom Cruise Iron Man, like, dude, it could get wacky coming up. So
Dude,
I just hope they don't get too carried away.
That's going to be Monday, right? That's what we're talking about on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We're doing our anticipated and roadmap.
Yeah, so Tuesday we're going to talk about our 2022 MCU roadmap, the new stuff they have coming out, Disney Plus series, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, all that stuff coming down the Marvel roadmap. We're going to talk about that, and we should be live streaming that, so look out for that. John, Brian, anything else before we end it?
Blade.
Loved the inclusion of Blade. I'm glad they officially said it was him. It's gonna be really interesting to see him ever interact with Luke Cage from Netflix if they ever bring him in, because he was Cottonmouth in that series. That could be really interesting. They may wink at each other and be like, but you know, I'm looking forward to the future for sure.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great time. Anything else I have to say about the Eternals? I didn't say too much about the cast. Loved it.
Yeah.
The cast didn't do anything wrong. Everyone, yeah. So that's all I'm gonna say. It was great. I enjoyed it. And as a Marvel movie, not a regular movie by itself, as a Marvel movie, it's in my C tier.
Agreed.
That's all I got.
All right, guys. Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know how you felt about the Eternals. Look out for some more videos soon. As always, fan out. See you guys.
Later.
Fanout.